Now read a second time, and I call the member for line.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the Enhancing Online Safety for Children and Consequential Amendments Bill from 2014 because it's fulfilling an election commitment that we made to protect Australian children. It's also something that has been promoted in discussion papers and very broad industry and community consultation. Now, before we go on, I'd just like to define for the House what I mean by and what the legislation means by cyberbullying, because some of my constituents who are not familiar with this have raised this issue. What is cyberbullying? They read about it, and basically cyberbullying is a phenomenon of the digital age, but it's using electronic digital media to seriously threaten, intimidate, harass or humiliate a person. Now, this is so important because so many of our children now are connected in a digital way to social media or just texting. Now, in days gone by, there was always bullying. It's been a feature of schoolyard and social communities for generations. But the issue that's different with cyberbullying is that the schoolyard is so much more exponentially huge and large and connected. We've all heard about issues going viral in the digital space. Well, if bullying happens, it has the potential to go viral. So the threatening, intimidation, harassment and humiliation can spread like wildfire through digital media. And because digital media is so universal now, whether it's a smartphone, a tablet or just on hardwired computers at home, it's pervasive, particularly in youth culture. And the reality is that depending on which age group you've been surveyed, the incidence of cyberbullying is quite frightening. The figures that I've seen in one age group is 6%, through to the other extreme that up to 40% of teenagers up to the age of 16 have experienced some form of cyberbullying, whether it's been profound and severe or just short-term. That's a scary phenomenon. The phenomenon too, though, is it doesn't go away. A schoolyard bully can be sorted out in the schoolyard. If you had a schoolyard bully, you could escape and go home. You could retreat to your friends. But if someone's out there harassing you, it is very hard to combat. This bullying can have long-term serious effects on the mental health, the self-esteem, create anxiety and depression. The perpetrator is perpetually out of reach, and it's very hard to respond. Now, this legislation will give a mechanism for parents and children. They will now have a system by which they can respond if this phenomenon is happening and it can't be resolved person to person. And the essence of this is the establishment of a Children's E-Safety Commissioner. Now, he or she will have several powers. The first, Mr Deputy Speaker, is a promotional role, where the Children's E-Safety Commissioner can promote research about online safety, e-safety, and occasionally make grants of financial assistance in relation to rolling out online safety programs for children. It'll have a role, most importantly, of intervention and be able to enforce undertakings both to online services or to individual bullying posting material. Both material and behaviour that appears on large media sites will be under his or her remit of responsibility, and to the people posting bullying material. Now, none of us on the coalition like overdoing or creating a nanny state. But as I've mentioned, the internet is a new phenomenon, and you don't have the power of a personality to fight this sort of bullying. We need systems in place because of the reach of the internet. Now, it's a light touch system of enforcement. What will happen will be there will be 2 tiers of service created under the legislation. Now, Tier 1 is the level that everyone is in, and any media service, whether it be large or small, will be voluntarily enrolled in the Tier 1 system. Tier 1, as I said, is universal, so it's not a question of having misbehaved to be a Tier 1 service. But if there is an issue of bullying, a Tier 1 service can be notified that there is a problem, and they either, if they're the individual, stop posting it and remove it, or if it's a social media site, remove the bullying material from their site. Tier 2 system, Tier 2 level, however, is the so-called naughty corner, where the minister can direct someone to become a Tier 2 level service, and that is a service that hasn't complied with requests to remove offensive material. Once a site or a social media organisation is in that Tier 2 level, the minister and the E-Safety Commissioner can issue a compliance notice, and there are consequences. If they repeatedly fail to act on the notices served upon them or on an individual, they can be fined up to 170 units. Up to 100 units can be levied, and if each unit is worth $170, well, that means a $17,000 fine, Mr Deputy Speaker, and that's per day. So there is some tooth to the enforcement scenario that the legislation sets up. Now, the notices are of a certain type. There's an end-user notice, which will be levied to a person posting aggressive material. The person or the party that has done the aggressive post will have to comply. A social media service is to a broader body. It's to the body that may not have posted it, but is hosting the site where the bullying is occurring. And it's pleasing to hear that all the large social media services that we're familiar with, whether it be the huge ones like Google or Facebook, are complying with this. Hopefully, no one will ever be in that Tier 2 space. Usually a letter to the offender from a legal officer of some sort often results in the situation being resolved there and then. The E-Safety Commissioner can notify police of appropriate intervention. An injunction can be sought. All sorts of levels can be reached before a body, either an individual or a huge organisation, is declared a Tier 2 service. Now, in my electorate of Lyne, there is a mixed demographic, but the young demographic, it's now not unusual for children, once they get to their teens, to have their own mobile phone. And as you know, the internet is available to them, whether they've got an iPad or an iPhone or one of the other many smartphones. Facebook is permeating youth just like it's permeating everyone else. But with the spread of the internet, which fortunately in our electorate is improving all the time due to the actions of the coalition government in actually fixing and delivering the rollout of the NBN, we've got 17 towers of fixed wireless capability that are being rolled out across the electorate. New announcements made for improved internet services in Taree, where we've got fibre to the premise being rolled out, including in the CBD, and to the northwest of Taree in Cundletown, moving up with fixed wireless towers near Harrington and into the Camden Haven, where improvements will be rolled out in the very near future. So with the internet being so pervasive and this phenomenon of social bullying being quite prevalent, as I mentioned, up to 40%. That is a scary figure. I must admit, my children have never told me they've been bullied on the internet, but these surveys are quite reliable. So it is a real issue for parents. So there'll be a mechanism for parents to complain to. There'll be a mechanism to effect a notice on the end user, the person who's posting it, or to the site that's hosting the offensive material. And hopefully with the promotion of e-Safety Commissioner out there, rolling out these programs, the issue will fade. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it, but it's our duty to look after the members of our society. So I commend this bill to the House, and hopefully it'll be put to good use. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.